Well, hello friends, my name is Roger, and today we're going to look at how to blur out or draw attention to information on your screen using Camtasia. Capturing video of your screen is a great way to share information, but sometimes there might be information in the video that is personal, confidential, or that you don't wish to share with the entire world. Perhaps you don't want to display your password when providing a demo of logging onto a site. Or maybe you want to blur out the entire background except for a specific area of the screen. You might even want to blur out someone's face entirely. And that is where Camtasia's blur tools come in. And they're located under the Annotations tab here, under the fourth icon from the left, and that's this little droplet looking icon here. And here we have the blur and highlight annotations. So here in my timeline, I have a small clip of me talking. Now, if I wanted to blur out my face, I choose the last icon in the bottom row, and that's this one right here. And all I need to do is just drag it over the area of my image where I want to blur. Now, the annotations have sizing handles with which you can increase or decrease the amount of the blur. So I'm going to drag the lower right sizing handle down and to the right. And now I can see my entire face is blurred. So now if I play this clip, you can see I'm talking, but my face is pixelated out. So once you add your blur annotation to your timeline, then you need to set the duration of the blur. That is to say, how long on the timeline the blur effect is to last. To do so, you click the right border of the annotation and then drag to the right until the duration of the annotation lasts as long as the item you want to blur out displays on the screen. So if I drag my playhead here to the right, I can see that the blur will remain in effect until here. Now, each of the annotations have properties that you can set. And if you don't see the properties pane, just click the properties button over here in the bottom of the right pane. So here we can set the scale of the blur. So again, just another way to set the area of the blur. Also the opacity. So if you don't want it to be quite so pixelated. But the annotation has its own specific set of properties, which is this icon up here. And here you can set the intensity of the blur. So if I don't want it to be quite so intense, I could just set it to about 26. As I notice, as I drag up, it becomes more and more pixelated and more intense. Now, if I wanted to blur out the entire background except for my face, I drag the first icon on the bottom row onto the image. So let's do that. So I'm going to click this annotation here, and I'm going to tap the delete key on my keyboard. And now I'm going to drag the first icon at the bottom of the row onto my image. And notice that everything except for the area in this bounding box is blurred out. And again, you can drag the sizing handles to adjust the area that you have blurred out. I could also blur out everything except for the row of shelves here. And everything is blurred out except for that area. So this is a good way to draw attention to specific areas of your screen. And I'm going to delete this annotation here. So now let's take a look at the next clip. In the next clip, you can see that I have some confidential employee information here that I want to blur out. I have the date of birth and the social security number. So let's start out with the date of birth. So I'm going to drag my playhead right to the area to where the information first appears on your screen. So I'm going to click the middle icon in the bottom row, and I'm going to drag it over the date of birth. And again, we can use those resizing handles to specify the area of the blur, how much of our screen is going to blur out. So now I have the date of birth blurred out. So now I need to set the duration of the blur, and I want this blur to last as long as the date of birth is displayed on my screen. So I'm going to drag my playhead, and there we go. So that's where it disappears. So I'm going to click the right edge of this blur annotation and drag to the right until about here. So now we can see that area is blurred out all the way until the screen changes. So right here, I can even drag this a little bit to the left here. And then we move into the next scene. So I want to blur out the social security number as well, so we'll do the same thing. So I'm going to move my playhead to the beginning of the scene with the employee information. I'm going to click the blur icon in the middle of the bottom row and then drag it over the social security number and then adjust it by dragging the sizing handles. And then I will set the duration to the same duration as the date of birth annotation here. So I'll just drag that to the right until they're the same size. Now when you drag a play on it, we can see that both pieces of information are blurred until this scene. So here's a fun little tip. If you want to highlight a specific portion of your clip by blackening out everything else, you can use the second annotation in the first row. So let me show you how this works. So I'm going to move the playhead over here to the beginning. What I want to do is black out everything except for this hourly wage schedule area. So I'm going to click that second annotation in the first row, drag it over the hourly wage, and notice that everything is blacked out here. And I'm going to set the sizing handle so just that area. The hourly wage schedule is displayed in the bounding box. And again, you can set the opacity so you can black it out completely if you want by dragging the opacity slider to the right. Or you can set less opacity. You can even change the color of the blur if you want by clicking the color box here and then choosing a color from the palette. I don't want to do that. So that is how to blur text out in Camtasia. Did you like this video? If so, please click the like button below, as that really helps my channel out. And that is it for this time. I will talk to you all in the next video. Roger and out.